to the 5 capabilities of a successful career coach. I'm so pleased to have all of you here. And I'd like to turn it over to my co-presenter, Michelle J. Michelle?
Hi, everyone. I know that we are all familiar and know Helen Horyza, as she is a career development expert. She is the founder of the Career Coach Entrepreneur Academy Certificate Program, and of course, the inventor of Elevations, which I use all the time with my clients. She has over 30 years of experience, and she is amazing at uncovering talent and directing individuals to achieve extraordinary results. And I'm so excited to be here today and have all of you with us.
Awesome. And back at you, Michelle. Michelle is my co-host, and Michelle is an instructor and counselor in the community college system in California. I've had the privilege of working with Michelle directly over the last 15 years, and I call her a friend. So thank you, Michelle, for being here.
Absolutely.
All right, so I want to give you just a sense of what the overview is in the short time that we're going to have together. I'd like to just check in with some context, some amazing statistics, and then we're going to take a look at how you're feeling about career coaching. As kind of a concept, I'm having to assume that you are either currently a career coach. Actually, I know all of you. Welcome, Cheryl. And, you know, you all work in very high people, high touch environments. And you're going to find that you have a lot of the capabilities that I'm going to be talking about. Those will be the 5 capabilities of a successful career coach, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So let's start. Let's start with what I consider just a mind-blowing reality. This is, look at these statistics, look at how current these are. And you know what, this isn't the only studies I've been seeing. 56% of employed Americans, 56% are considering a career change. Wow, if you can think about what that looks like in energy and desire and people who need support. And then even more staggering, 66% of laid off, unemployed, or furloughed workers are considering making a career change. And I was thinking about this on my walk this morning. It's like, what does that mean? Because we've never lived through a time like this before. We've never had such an economic situation, health situation, all these different kinds of circumstances. So it really lays the groundwork for a lot of people who may need the help of a career coach. And so that kind of begs the question, and I'm going to invite you to start participating using the questions interface. And answer this question. How confident are you feeling about becoming a career coach? Are you ready to rock it? Are you pretty confident, but I'd like to learn more? Not sure, that's why I'm here, Helen. Worried I can't do it, or I'm absolutely terrified. So jump on in and give me your answer. How are you feeling about, you can even just use one word or one part of the word. It's a good idea for us to start learning how to use the question function so we can be interacting with each other so that you're enjoying this as much as you can. Thank you. Helen, pretty confident, but want to learn more. Good, excellent. I'd love to just see one more. One of the very awkward realities that you're going to find out very shortly is that I'm really good with silence, which can be really awkward on this kind of platform. All right.
So for those who are trying to figure out how to answer, on your control panel, you can either answer via questions or just unmute yourself and do it verbally.
Can you hear me?
I did just hear someone. Yes.
This is Vicki. I'm pretty confident, want to learn more.
Yay, thank you.
All right.
Right. I think we're good. All right, we'll let that be a personal conversation, which I think is very cool. So I want to move into the 5 capabilities of a career coach. And of course, this is just my opinion, but it's based on a lot of self-reflection and thought over the course of my experience. And the first capability of a successful career coach is coaching presence. And it has to do with you being you and you knowing you and bringing your authentic self to the coaching process. And, you know, I don't want to keep saying this over and over again, but I've watched a lot of people who call themselves a career coach or a workforce development expert or a success coach or fill in the blank, a counselor, career counselor. They're not always coming in authentic. They're not coming in with a genuine self-confidence, and they're not always bringing an enrolling energy. Sometimes it's the flip of that. It's a lot of unwanted advice. It's a lot of expertise. It's a lot of maybe I'm not really into this all that much. And that's just really not going to engage your clients or give an opportunity to learn as much as they could learn. And so I wanted to take some time just so like, how do I get there? What are some of the keys to building coaching presence? Well, since most of us are, I'm going to make a guess that most of you are self-help junkies like me. And like Michelle, yes. And so as a result, you do know yourself well, and you are yourself. And so you're already well on your way. Also, building coach presence, as I've just kind of alluded to, refers to, do you know what hat you have on? When you're a coach, you're not the expert. When you're a coach, you're drawing out the brilliance of the other person. And Michelle, I'm just curious, since you've just gone through the Career Coach Entrepreneur Academy, what have you learned about the difference between being a consultant and being a coach?
Oh, goodness. For 14 years, I've been in the classroom and teaching career development, resumes, and interviews. I've always had the consultant hat on. I'm teaching, I'm showing, I'm giving out information. By going through the academy, I really had to learn as a coach to listen, to really be present, intentional, and ask those open-ended questions, and that I don't have to know the answer, that I'm there to coach and support, you know, the person that's sitting in front of me. And that was the biggest eye-opening to me. And also, it's been a pretty amazing experience to be able to learn that and experience that with my practice clients.
Yeah, it may sound obvious, but even those of us who've been in the field for a really long time, until you consciously make that switch, it really doesn't happen. And of course, knowing the difference between those two things and when someone needs a therapist. And when you know that, you convey a level of confidence to your clients that is intangible and powerful. And along those lines, knowing, interestingly enough, I and everybody else has a bad day, and you maybe don't feel all that terrific, or you've just had some bad news. To be able to maintain your presence, even if you're not feeling all that terrific, or if your client is having a really hard time, maintaining appropriate boundaries, that's another way to build coaching presence. And I mentioned being comfortable with silence. It's really hard to be present if you're talking all the time, and if you're filling up every single empty moment. And so that's another part of it, staying present. And then interestingly enough, I think for a career coach, coaching presence really has a lot to do with mastering the technical aspects of career coaching, because we are more than a general coach. We actually have the obligation to help some people with their livelihood, with career choices and career changes. And it's really hard to have coaching presence if you don't understand the technical aspects of career coaching. And so those include, and not always does a career assessment have to be an actual survey of some sort, but if you have a good one that really looks at values, skills, interests, and temperament, it can be a conversation platform that accelerates the career coaching process and gives you the confidence as a coach to build your coaching presence. Understanding career research and networking, really critical, and learning it and understanding it in our current work environment, interesting times. And then being really, really, really adept and sharp at giving your clients employment and job search information. When you combine all those things, ability to manage silence, manage emotions, know what hat you have on, all those different things along with the technical aspects of career coaching, You'll sit really high. You'll stand really high, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're teaching or working. The second capability of a successful career coach is client attraction. Pretty practical, huh? Yeah, I acknowledge I worked in a university setting as the associate director of a career center down in Stockton, California at UOP for my first 8 years. But I even needed to have client attraction there because the career center was underutilized. And then in the ensuing about 23 years, I've been self-employed. So it is incredibly important for you to understand how to attract clients, to be consistent in your communication, tell your story, and have the enrolling frequency, the energy that makes people really want to connect with you, to work with you, to be open to you, to share things with you. And here are some ways that I do this, and I think you could do this. I was really lucky years and years and years ago while I was working at UOP. I had an instructor in a continuing education class. At the end of the class, she asked us if we would be willing to share our email address so she could continue teaching us about the topic. I'm like, absolutely. And wow, maybe I should do that. And so as a result of that, I have over 10,000 emails that have organically and naturally been a part of my conference attendance, workshop attendance, and teaching. Really smart. Investing in a professional website. Capitalize on your professional and personal network. You attract this is magic. You may think you don't have a wide circle of professionals and friends, but you do, and they are always interested in referring clients to you. A comment about social media. It's not like a one-to-one relationship. You know, just because you have a follower on Facebook or on LinkedIn or something doesn't mean that they're going to become your client. But synergistically, having a presence on social media, having a positive professional network, website, then maybe interacting with your client base with an email, all those different things that kind of work together. And then finally, if you're listening and you're like, how to be a successful career coach, I don't know that I want to build my own business. Well, there's a lot of organizations like Placer County, where you work, Helen, who have clientele already. And also you, Grace Lee, you know, with your clients in your workforce development efforts and career development efforts, it's not about having to attract them, it's about having to engage them and serve them. But for those of you who are kind of thinking you might want to own your own business and you want to contract with other organizations, I just wanted to list a few. This is growing, by the way. One is called Better Up, very, very large. Mind Up, Merit America, and colleges and universities are starting to hire career coaches. And I saw a job listing today for a full-time, full benefits career coach for a construction company. So this whole thing is rising. And I'm just curious, Michelle, in your world, do you genuinely feel like opportunity is growing for you?
I do. Being in the community college, and I'm with 2 different districts in California, and I've seen a real big change with the career centers. One in particular, they really have downsized it where they're focusing more on transfer and internships, but not doing the real career coaching or career counseling. So now that caseload's been put onto the academic advisors, so they're doing academic, personal, and now we need to throw in some career as well. So I think it's really overwhelming for that. And I'm seeing a lot of students that are really stuck and they need extra help in figuring out, what do I want to do? What direction do I want to go? And being able to be serviced that way. So then they're not in community college for the next 5 years, right? Nobody wants to be in community college for 5 years. At least that's what my students tell me. But they need to figure out what they want to do so they can move on.
Right. So, you know, that those of you who are listening are thinking, what about workshops? What about, you know, different ways to support those? What about webinars for students? Just all kinds of opportunities. The third capability of a successful career coach is something that Michelle mentioned. And it's really easy to say, and it's really challenging to do extremely well. And if you are already one of those people that your friends just kind of naturally gravitate towards you, people tend to trust you naturally, you probably are already on your way to having this capability. But I just want to kind of break it out for you a little bit. What does listening fully really mean? And the first one is called third level listening. And what third level listening is recognizing when you're first just listening to the chatter in your head. I mean, you've got someone over there talking, you're kind of hearing what they're saying, but you're developing your response in your head. You're getting ready to tell your own story. You're buffering up some advice there, or you're just sort of adding grapefruit to your grocery list at the same time that you're supposed to be actually paying attention. That's the, if you will, the lowest level of listening, and it's actually where most people hang out. Second level listening is listening to understand and giving them your full attention. And you're like, wow, what's third then? I mean, if that's second. And third level listening is actually listening for what isn't even said, or even listening sort of holistically, noticing everything, noticing their body language and their facial color, and maybe just when they took a breath, or your sense. Or this one happens to me, and I hope this doesn't sound weird, but I'll have an emotion while I'm listening to someone that isn't consistent with what I'm hearing. And if I trust it and say, are you feeling anxious right now? Because I'm kind of feeling anxious. It can be, yeah, whoa, yeah. So listening in that really holistic way, you know. And Michelle, you mentioned listening. Can you add anything to that, like that holistic idea of listening?
I know for myself personally, I mean, I teach listening in my assertiveness class, but really, I've learned that I have to practice that third level listening, and you know, with eye contact and body language, and really being present and intentional, looking at the client and really listening and focusing on what they're saying and what I'm hearing, and being able to react to that, because it is really easy to get distracted. But right, I mean, we all get distracted like the first level, but being really present, and then when you're able to respond to your client with a question, and your client go, oh, wow, and that really resonates with them, it can be very magical and a very like aha moment for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like one of the most generous things that you can do. You know, I teach listening in a lot of my workshops, and what's really interesting is, and I teach a lot of blue collar, hands-on construction, maintenance, landscape kinds of folks who the last thing they want to do is a communications class. And then when they get into the listening lab, is what I call it, and I, you know, remind them, no stories, just listen. You know, you can ask a question, but you can't take this, you know, the control of the conversation away. Every single one of those, mostly men in this case, but also women, they do it beautifully. And then at the end, I always announce the bad news. They're like, what's the bad news? I'm like, you've now proven that you're a really good listener. And so it's only because you're not choosing to put that effort into it. Now that sounds kind of harsh, but it's true. It's a real act of generosity to listen well. And then along those lines, this takes practice, let me promise you. You know, I will sometimes open up a coaching session and I'll say, so tell me a little bit about what you want to talk about today. And it can be 25 minutes later before I say anything. All right.
Mhm.
And so reflecting and summarizing is not by any stretch of the imagination trying to repeat what they just said, but reflecting and summarizing to say something like, it sounds like the level of stress you've experienced over the last week just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding. Is that what's going on with you? And that's, I just made that up, but I mean, that's a 25-minute into a, what I, this little guy, it's called bottom lining it. And learning how to do that, give it back to the client, that is one of the capabilities of a successful career coach for sure. And then build your retention muscle. You know, you can't get to the essence of it unless you practice and practice and practice and practice, and you'll never, ever, ever completely master it. And that's totally, totally okay. Yeah, it is. What do you think about that, Michelle?
Yes, I think sometimes we have to be able to give ourselves a little bit of grace in that we're always, it's a journey for us as well, and we're always learning and growing. And the more we experience, the more we have to give to our clients.
Yeah. So, you know, starting out with coaching presence, adding client attraction, functioning at that frequency and authenticity that really enrolls people to want to work with you. And then you add listen fully. And even if I didn't give you the other two capabilities, you'd be the bomb, right? And I'm really hoping that as you're listening here, you're saying, I think I do a lot of this pretty naturally. Yeah, I bet you do, because you're all working in some aspect of helping profession already, or you do some aspect of that in your career. The fourth capability of a successful career coach is powerful questions, asking well. And a lot of times we ask a lot of closed-ended questions. So, you know, how did that go for you today? Or no, see, I'm so trained in not asking closed-ended questions that I almost can't do it. Did you like what your father said? No. And that doesn't open the door up. How did you feel when your father said that to you? That opens it up. And then you can kind of play around with perspectives. I'm going to hang out with this father thing for a minute. If your father was your hero in your life, if you could imagine that, how would you have accepted that comment? Or if you are Superwoman and you heard that the way your father responded to you, how could you accept that information? So perspectives allows you to use metaphors. It also allows you to use curiosity. I wonder if you've ever had an experience where someone said something like that to you in your past, and how did you experience that? So powerful questions are in some ways a lot like listening. They're an act of generosity, but in this case, it takes training. There's a couple of really good books about question strategy, learning about the different kinds of questions, and practicing asking powerful questions. And I think, and I'll check in with Michelle on this, one of the tricky parts of asking powerful questions is it can really mess up your coaching presence. So, you know, because you're sitting there going, oh, we've got to come up with this really killer question right now, while you just dropped into first level listening and you're not paying attention to your client. Does that make sense to you, Michelle?
Oh, absolutely. When I first started my practice coach with my clients, you know, pen and paper, just going, and then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to ask? And for myself, I literally had to put the pen down and sit back and just really listen and not put so much pressure or judgment on myself to ask the right question. You know, I wanted the question to sound perfect if it's more organic, and just be able to give the client space and just be curious about what they're saying, the question will naturally come.
It does. It does. It absolutely does. And then if, you know, I think it's as much as I've been told since I was a teenager that I have an outsized intuition, I didn't trust it, or I didn't use it. I was afraid that if I said something wrong, I would hurt the coaching relationship. I would hamper it. And then at one point somebody said, well, no matter what you say, they can always just agree or disagree. I'm like, oh yeah, that has to do with co-creating the relationship, like believing that my client is brilliant and strong and resourceful. And so if I'm suggesting something that doesn't make sense to them, they could say that doesn't make sense to them. Like, oh, wow. And so as a result, that really opens up that that small, subtle voice in the back, which usually is really what drives the best questions. And sometimes it takes courage, because I've so often been working with a client, sometimes very high powered, sometimes high stakes, and I'll see just this shadow of fear on their face, or just something, sadness, maybe just a tiny bit. I'll say, does that make you, tell me a little bit about sadness. Is that something that you're experiencing right now? And yeah, like, yeah, Michelle, you can feel that, right? It's and you know, they may just say, yeah, I feel kind of sad about that, or they may just burst into tears. And that's why it takes courage to do this work, because you have to be able to contain anything that your client is feeling. You can't be afraid of their feelings or you're going to hold them back. Does that make sense, Michelle?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Being able to ask those hard questions, those feelings. Because, right, sometimes the clients don't even know until they start processing and talking, and you ask that question, and the tears will come, and then they're like, oh my goodness. And then they can go on to the next step and start working through that with you.
Right, right. I know you work a lot with people who have self-confidence issues, imposter syndrome. Those are a constant scenario with career coaching. And so while we're not therapists, in some ways the breakthroughs that we offer our clients are every bit as powerful as anything they could have experienced with any other helping profession, which I think is really super cool. Now this is a meaty slide, all right? And so I'm going to start by just introducing, this is one of my models, and I have several proprietary models that are part of the Career Coach Entrepreneur Academy and part of my practice as a career coach. And this one's number 5, not because it's the least important or anything like that. It's because it's the foundation. It's the cement on the bottom of your house. And the dynamics of this is that your clients will cause you angst, and your life will cause you angst. And if you are in an organizational setting, like you are, Ellen, or like you are, Grace, or Grace, you're running one, yeah, there are situations that, you know, it's more than a bad day, and whatever could happen might be justifiably rotten. And it can lead you to feel like you need to defend yourself, you need to blame other people, make excuses, can lead to low motivation. And, you know, when you're working with a client, that's a pretty bad place to be. And when you're working in an organizational setting, as we all know, once you or someone you know gets into the victim loop, that tends to go viral, and it tends to lower the standard of opportunity for everyone in the organization or everyone in your business. And as a self-employed business owner, if you can just think about historically, what are some of the things that have happened in the last 23 years? 9/11, Great Recession, pandemic, you know, lots of opportunities to want to crawl in to a little tiny place and say, no, I can't do this. And the alternative is to make a choice. The alternative is to make a choice based on the circumstances and say, I am going to be accountable. I'm going to be problem solving oriented. No matter how justifiable it is, I'm not going to blame anybody for the circumstance that I'm in. I'm going to take control. I'm going to be creative. And what's really important about this, and again, if, you know, I should open this up and see, whoops, it wasn't what I wanted. I was just going to see if there's anybody asking any questions here, because I just want to check in with you and see if there's anything going on. Not yet. This is a really powerful concept. So if you want to unmute yourself and comment on it or ask us questions, please do that. So when you go from the victim, and sometimes, you know, life will hit you with something really, really hard, and you go into the victim perspective because you're upset, because it was bad. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to run away from your bad feelings, but you don't want to live there. You don't want to marinate in the victim perspective. And so when you realize, I don't want to be a victim, you pop into the accountable perspective. And what's really important is this just isn't a mind thing. This isn't just, oh, I believe that I'm accountable. It actually changes the brain chemistry. It changes the level of stress you're experiencing. It opens your mind up to be able to be smart and think. And yeah, comment, Michelle.
Oh, I totally agree. Just going through a situation personally with family, it's very easy to be in the victim role. But as soon as you change the accountable and you look for solutions, you take ownership of your own feelings, it's just, there's so much more freedom there with
Yeah,
yourself and everything than staying in that other role.
yeah. Freedom, power, courage, the things that you
Hmm.
need as a successful career coach. So I wanted to include this. Yes, coaching presence. Yes, client attraction. Yes, listen fully. Yes, powerful questions. But all of that stuff can be running on fumes if you're operating from the victim perspective. It undermines everything. So I have some items here in terms of what is accountability. Well, for me, it absolutely is operating from my personal values. Um, I don't think I could do what I do if I didn't have my values clearly in mind. I'll be genuine and honest with you. Never done a webinar before. This is my first time. What do you think I thought about this morning as I woke up? Meaningful work, that's what I do, helping others and having fun. And I'm having fun. Ah. So it really does ignite your creativity. It allows you to focus on problem solving. Accountability is in some ways, I think and you know what? A lot of people, when you talk about being accountable, they just assume that they are, even when they're not. Or there's so much support for blaming and making excuses and becoming defensive. And it's not just in 2021. This has been true for all time, that it's easier to find someone else to blame than it is to take responsibility for the circumstance. But I would argue that it's worth it every single time. So I want to add, and again, if anyone is brave and wants to unmute, this would be a really nice time for some feedback. I don't want to call anybody out, but if you're feeling brave, anybody want to chat here? All right, well, I still got y'all. Ha ha! You're just madly taking notes. I know that. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of give you some resources. And of course, tomorrow we're going to send you via email this slide deck so that you have it. You can use it, share it, whatever value it has for you. Two associations to be aware of. One is the International Coach Federation, and one is the National Career Development Association. That shouldn't have a space in it, excuse me. And those are both really good resources. If you're in career coaching or career development, workforce development, whatever you want to call that, you should know about those two organizations. And then I wanted to add just, I've been sort of in a self-appointed social media boot camp for the entire year, March to March, because what I was doing went away in a big way, like all of it went away. So all of a sudden I couldn't help anybody. It was like really a drag for me because that's one of my top 3 values. So I decided to learn Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn from the ground up and down. And one of the ways I did that was learning how to design my own web materials or my own social materials using Canva. Understanding what hashtags are is also useful, and a tool that has been really good for me is called FlickTech. And if you're wondering where I learned about all this stuff, I also became a student of YouTube videos. Every time I didn't know how to edit a video, every time I didn't know what hashtags were, every time I didn't understand how people on Instagram could have a video that was more than 15 seconds when I only had a 15-second option. And I learned about IGTV. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know, right? But you can always learn. I designed an ebook from scratch using Designer.io. It was not totally intuitive, but what's cool about Designer.io is you can take a Word document and import it into an ebook, and that's cool. I couldn't find anything else that did that. And then I also started a YouTube channel. And so there I have 37 videos that I'd love if you would subscribe and check it out. And just that's something you can do too. All of these things, and both Michelle and I are testimonials. I'm technophobic. I am not necessarily natural at all of this, but driven by my values, I was able to learn all of it. What do you think, Michelle? Do you think you can learn some of this stuff?
I'm telling myself yes.
I know you know, and what I would really encourage you to do, and I hope I don't make you angry by saying this, but if you resent social media or you think it's evil in some way, or you know, it's just insipid, or it's a bunch of self-aggrandizement, why don't you try telling yourself a different story, which is it's a platform where you can reach out and help people, and you can be honest and genuine and real and generous. And that's the approach I took, and I found that it's incredibly wonderful. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Career Coach Entrepreneur Academy. If you're, you know, listening to this now and you're thinking, wow, that sounds pretty cool. I kind of like a lot of the stuff you've been saying, and I'd like to get trained. I'm very proud of this academy. Our vision is to be the premier career coach academy, certifying world-class savvy entrepreneurs who transform lives. And I really don't think that exists. I did a lot of research, and you know, I'm going to ask the question for you: what makes you different? There's a million coaching academies out there. Why do you need another one? Well, first of all, there's not a lot that just certify career coaches. A lot of them want to be everything to everybody. Secondly, the ones that are the most successful in terms of having run for years and having certified a lot of people, I'm going to just say it, they're run by people who don't have career development training. They just were interested in career development. So I'm going to say that my Master's of Science in Career Development, my 30 years of experience, my national certification as a career counselor, that is true, and my training as a career coach, what I'd like to do is offer you a foundation of experience that you can stand on. And we offer 2 tracks, the 14-week enriched program and the 4-week fast track. So what's the difference? Well, the fast track is for someone who's already a really accomplished coach. And I will remind you what Michelle said. Michelle has 14 years of experience and a Master's of Career Development, Master's of Science in Career Development. And it wasn't until she participated in the academy that she really learned what coaching is. So you might want the 14-week enriched program where you learn how to be a coach and you learn all the skills and technical aspects of career coaching. The 4-week, you're a killer coach, you know it, you're certified, you've got it done, you just really want to add career coaching as a niche in your life, then that's a great idea for you. 35 hours hours of live virtual instruction. You will not be on an online course. You will be trained, getting feedback, practicing. And a lot of people are like, what's the time commitment? Well, it's 2.5 hours of weekly instruction with some homework, all right? And we offer a path to your International Coach Federation certification. And I'm blessedly not going to get into that because it's really kind of complicated. But to become an ICF certified coach is very worthwhile because it allows you to apply for contracts where that will be one of the requirements. And we also train you on an assessment I've created called Elevations. We give you business launch support, and every single student receives 3 hours of one-on-one personal mentor coaching. And I think I'd love to hear your experience of that, Michelle.
Oh my goodness. As far as the 3 hours individual coaching and mentoring have been fabulous. Besides Brett being an amazing coach, just really brought out some depth in my thinking, my processing, and our last session was pretty mind-blowing for me as far as moving forward with my calling and what I believe I'm supposed to be doing here with my career, my life, and with my gifts and my talents. But I will say the entire 14 weeks has been amazing. And you learn everything. And I've never practiced coaching so much. And going into it, I was fearful. But at the end, I'm so happy and amazed at the progress I've made personally, even though I have so much more to make. It's just been a really amazing experience.
I have to be real and tell you how much that means to me because been a huge leap of faith. And it's really, really amazing to know that we are making a difference and giving people an amazing opportunity to do meaningful work and to have life balance. And the last thing I'll say about this, because I really want you guys to be prepared to ask me some questions about the content of this webinar, or the academy, or anything else. So please be brave. The Career Coach Entrepreneur Academy, if you had told me a year ago that I should create an online school, I would say, no. Not only do I not want to do it, but I can't do it. And the pandemic has transformed what career coaching is, because now I have clients from all over the country and I don't have to rent an office. It's been a big, good, positive shift. And so given what I started with, the context, 56% of working Americans are considering making a career change, and 66% of laid off, unemployed, and furloughed workers are considering making a career change. Holy cow. It's fair to say there's never been a better time. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank you. I really appreciate your time. Your time is the one thing that's the most valuable thing of all. And so what I'd like to do is, for each one of you who are on this webinar right now, if you enroll in either track, Fast Track or Enrich Track, by April 23rd, so I'm giving you a whopping 3 days, I would like to give you an additional hour of mentor coaching, which is valued at $300 an hour. So just send me an email. I want to talk to you about the academy. Maybe certainly mention your attendance so that I can make sure that you're on a special list of people who get 4 hours of individual attention in addition to everything else that comes with the academy. So it's your turn. So unmute yourself if you could, please. I know for some of you this is a technical challenge, maybe the first webinar you've ever done. Maybe I could be really super wonderfully happy and try to unmute all of you. I could try it, but hasn't made any impact so far. So I'm up to you. Eileen.
Helen.
Helen, I'm sorry.
No worries. Honestly, I've thought that the third level listening that you were talking about kind of resonated with me, because I feel pretty strongly that I'm an empath. And what you described to me is when you are feeling other people's emotions, when they describe something to you, it's different than having empathy, because you're literally there with them in that moment. And I have to remember to separate myself from those emotions, because it's such a natural instinct for me. So I was always trying to figure out, because I'm someone who likes to talk, how people always want to talk to me anyway. And this is something that I've recently learned, because they find themselves connecting with me because our energies are kind of intertwining a little bit in that weird empathic sort of way. Or maybe I just express empathy well with my face. Who knows? But it really resonated with me, trying to describe to people, it's not just listening, it's listening to like behind the words. It's listening to micro expressions, or watching for micro expressions where someone says something and you want to know if that's something someone told them they should say, or if it's something they think they should be saying to you, or if it's how they really feel. And so by listening to more, or asking more of those open-ended questions to kind of draw out information, that was my favorite slide, because I think that's the thing that I naturally do the best.
Yeah.
And it reaffirms that I'm in the right field, doing the right job, helping people find their path. I say, what do you want to be when you grow up, or are you being it already? And I say it grammatically incorrect because I try to be a little bit silly with my process there, but it does come down to, maybe they don't hate what they're doing, but they know they have a bigger purpose or a different purpose, and how we can take the things that they like about their field or their job that they've had in the past and move those skills into something that's more meaningful, or even sometimes more lucrative, so that they'll still be enjoying what they're doing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is a great a great avenue of telling me the things that I need to do. And now I'm curious. I'm going to talk to Janice because I know she attended your academy, and I'm going to talk to her about it. And if she thinks it would tie into our jobs in some way, or we could be even better at what we do, because that's what I always want to be, is better at what I'm doing. I love what I do.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all of that. Absolutely. And it's also validating to me because I think there's a lot of different flavors of career coaching, and it doesn't have to be there's very, there's very intuitive, there's also very incisive, there's all kinds of different flavors, but you and I are the same flavor. And it does take a while to value something that's so intangible and hard to describe.
Yeah, exactly. But you did a good job doing it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Comments, questions? Judy, so glad you made it. Thank you. This is another Placer County individual. I don't know if Grace can. I'm just so grateful to all of you. Vicki.
I just wanted to say thank you for the information. It's invaluable in what we do as career coaches. It allowed me to kind of see myself and measure where I'm at and the things that I'm doing with the participants that I'm actually working with. One of the things that really was an aha moment for me was I think you made a comment about it's not so much of attracting other people, but it's also about engaging and serving and being genuine and authentic and being present in the moment. That's so important because once you connect with that individual, they will be more open with you, and they'll be more willing to go through the coaching steps so that they are accountable and that they can see those goals that they're trying to set and fulfill at the end of their journey. So thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you, you and Michelle, for taking this time to speak with us and to pour into us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Vicki. Thanks for your comments. Yeah, this is definitely a Helen flavor of, I'm quite sure. I'm thinking of other people in my field that I've known over the years, and this list of 5 capabilities would have never, ever been their list. But I think, the business side of it, being able to, get people to trust you and be competent and build your business, whether that's inside an organization or outside of an organization, it's important. But being congruent as a human being, for me, that's really where it lies. All right. So I'm going to give you the last slide, which is just basically how to contact me, either through a toll-free number or through my Helen at helenhoryza.com website. And so I'm going to call you out, Michelle. It's your first webinar too, huh?
Yes, it is.
So I hope we're modeling the way for all of you that these different kinds of technologies can be utilized to help people and to teach people. And we really appreciate your attendance.
Thank you.
All right, I'm calling it off early, which is typical Helen. Hope you don't mind. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Vicki.
Bye-bye.